Number 4, in what ways did he clear misconceptions amongst the Muslims with this title? Number 5, in what ways did he use his knowledge against non-Muslims, and what does this tell us about the concept of religious pluralism? And number 6, in what ways has the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida been emphasized? And based upon these 6 points, we'll analyze the life and this title of the Imam. Now, when it comes to Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, we find that the Imam, he was born either in the 148th year after Hijrah or the 153rd year after Hijrah. And he is martyred on the 17th of Safar in the 203rd year after Hijrah. Based upon these 2 dates, this means that either he was 50 or he was 55. The period of his imamate, 20 years. Based on the dates, either he lived with his father for 30 years or 35 years, and on all accounts, he was born after the shahadat of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. Now, when you look at the historical times within which the Imam lives, you find that either the first 5 or 10 years of his life are spent under the Abbasid Caliph al-Mansur. After that, 11 years are spent under al-Mahdi al-Abbasi. 1 year is spent under Hadi al-Abbasi. 23 years are spent under Harun al-Rashid. 5 years under Amin al-Rashid. And the final 5 years of the Imam are spent under the rule of Ma'mun al-Rashid. And based on that, you find that the first 47 or 52 years of the Imam, based on the date of birth, was spent in Medina, and the final 3 years are spent in Khurasan. Now, within this context, of course, we know whom the mother of the Imam is, but the father of the Imam is. But the question is that who is the mother of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida? Over here we find that the narrations, they differ about the name of the mother of the Imam. For example, Shaykh al-Mufid in Kitab al-Irshad, he says the name of the mother of the Imam was Najma. When you go to Bihar al-Anwar, there is a narration that says her name is Arwa. But amongst the earliest of these sources in Al-Kafi as well as in other places, the name which is mentioned for the mother of Imam al-Rida is the name Tuqtam. You find that there are 2 possibilities to who this Tuqtam was. The first possibility is that she was gifted to Imam al-Qadim, by whom the wife of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, the lady Hamida. You know, Hamida, the wife of Imam al-Sadiq, Imam al-Baqir has a narration about her where he says, Hiya Hamidatun fid dunya, that within this world she is Hamida wa Mahmuda fil akhirah, and in the hereafter she is the one who is praised. And in this regard, you find it stated that this Hamida, she gives this gift, this slave girl, as a gift towards the Imam, and Imam Musa al-Qadim marries this slave girl. When she gives her as a gift to Imam al-Qadim to marry, she says that I saw Rasulullah within my dream. And Rasulullah said that she will give birth to the best of creation. And she says, Ya Bunayya, O my son, Inna Tuqtam, this Tuqtam, Ma Ra'aytu qad jariya afdal minha, that I have not seen a slave girl who is better than her. So you find this is one possibility as to whom the mother of the Imam was. Now, there is a second narration as well. You know, what we know about her is that she is from the region of Barbar, from the region of Maghrib, in that area. Another narration says that Imam al-Qadim, he goes with a companion, and he knows that there is a slave trader who came. And when he comes, the Imam says that, what slave girls have you brought? He brings out several slave girls. The Imam says, no, is there anyone else? He says, there is one more, but I will not give her towards you. The Imam, he leaves according to this narration. He sends his companion, and he says to his companion that go and give whatever price to get that slave girl. When he goes back, he says, oh man, I will pay you whatever it takes. The man, he finally agrees. He says that I will give her towards you. But this woman, when we look at her, we have seen nothing but virtue. and the person she must go to must be a virtuous individual. So you find in this context, Imam al-Rida is brought up with a mother like this, and of course his father, Imam Musa al-Kadhim. When we look in the narrations additionally, you find that there are many narrations which give various titles for Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. You know, there are certain titles of the A'imma which the Shia, they would give the Imams. And without a doubt, they have a level of truth behind them. For example, when many people, they would go to Kadmain and their du'as would be accepted at the grave of Imam Musa al-Kadhim, many Shia, they would say Imam al-Kadhim is Babul Murad. That he is that door from where one's desires are fulfilled. But you find this title is not within the hadith. Yes, the idea of shafa'ah from the grave of Imam al-Kadhim without a doubt is within the narration. But this title itself is not within the narrations. But then there are certain titles of the A'immah which are found within the hadith. And in regards to Imam al-Rida, there are many titles which he has been given by the Shia, and there are many titles found in the narrations. Because amongst the latter Imams, Imam al-Rida had a great amount of popularity. And one of the evidences for this is that before Imam al-Rida and himself, people would call the Imams by saying, Yabna Rasulullah, that, O son of Rasulullah. But after Imam al-Rida, many of the Imams would be called Yabna al-Rida, not Yabna Rasulullah. That's how he would say that you are the son of Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. And you find this shows that the Imam was an individual who had a great amount of popularity. But when we come to the narrations, we find that one of the titles of the Imams which is found in a hadith of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. You know, Rasulullah forecasted the martyrdom of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. And this is something which is phenomenal to think about. You know, it's one thing for him to mention the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein is alive within that time period. But between the death of Rasulullah and Imam al-Rida, there's approximately 200 years in between. And Rasulullah, he would say in a famous narration, سَتُدْفَنُ بَدْعَةٌ مِنِّي بِخُرَاسَانٍ, that a part of me will be buried in Khurasan. مَا زَارَهَا مَكْرُوبٌ إِلَّا وَنَفَسَ اللَّهُ كَرْبًا. No person who is distressed will go and do a ziyarah except for that distress will be taken away from Allah. وَلَا مُذْنِبٌ إِلَّا وَغَفَرَ اللَّهُ لَهُ ذُنُوبًا. Nor is there any sinner who will go towards his grave except that Allah forgives the sins of that individual. You know, you might be surprised to know that after Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam al-Hussein, the most amount of narrations we have in terms of quantity and emphasis is about the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. You know, in Wasail al-Shia, there is a separate chapter for the virtues of the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. And Al-Hurr al-Amili, over there, he mentions 28 different narrations about the fadail and the virtues of the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. And there are certain narrations that even give precedence to the ziyarah of Imam al-Rida over the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Now some, they may be shocked to hear, the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein is a symbol of our faith. Now over here, there are two schools of thought. One said yes, that it is preferred in every time period. But there were other scholars, when they looked at these narrations, they said that it was for a period of time. Because when you look at Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, this is that Imam who has been called Gharibul Ghuraba. The word Gharib means that he is alone. That when you look at all of the other graves of the A'imma alayhimus salam, you find that they're much closer than the grave of Imam al-Rida to other members of Ahl-e-Bait. that when you go to Jannatul Baqi, multiple A'immah are in Jannatul Baqi. When you go to Najaf, by Amir al-Mu'mineen is Adam and Nuh, these prophets of Allah. When you go to Karbala, Imam al-Hussein, Aba Fadl Abbas. When you go to Samara, you find multiple Imams, Imam al-Askari, Imam Ali al-Naqib. But when you go to Qadmain, same thing, Imam al-Jawad, Imam al-Qadan. But then you find that there's one lonely grave in Khurasan. And that grave is the grave of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. So when that reality happened, Ahl-e-Bait emphasized that don't neglect the ziyarah of Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. Because this is that ziyarah. You know, one narration says when it comes to the other A'immah, يَزُورُهُمْ خَاصَّةً وَعَامَّةً, that the general and the close ones, those who have true ma'rifah, they would go and do their ziyarah. There are many who go to the ziyarah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, of Imam, of the other A'immah. But when it comes to the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, it says, لَا يَزُورُكَ إِلَّا الْخَوَاصِ مِنَ الشِّيعَةِ, that there is a selected group. And according to some, what this meant is the one who went to the 8th Imam, they would go and believe in the 12th Imam, according to one understanding of this tradition. So you find this is in the context of the ziyarah. So Rasulullah, he says, that a part of me will be buried in Khurasan. You know, in this regard, Imam al-Rida, he is similar to Fatima al-Zahra in what sense? That Fatima al-Zahra, salamullahi alayha, was called Bad'atu Rasulullah, that she was called a part of Rasulullah. And over here, the same title is being used for Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. You know, a part is something which represents the qualities of the whole. And that's why those qualities in Rasulullah are seen within the Imam. So you find this is one title of the Imam. A second title of the Imam that we find within the narrations is that he was called Imamur Ra'uf, the Imam of kindness. Somebody who was soft when he would interact with others. You know, in the final 3 years of his life, Imam al-Rida was forced to take the position of heir apparency to Ma'mun. When he takes that position, one of the things that the Imam would do is that the Imam would distance himself from the culture of the courtroom. Because when you're a king, when you're in a place of aristocracy, there's a particular culture. And Imam al-Rida would show that even though I am forced to be here, I am not one of them. In this manner, for example, you know, kings in that time, they would have private baths and areas to clean themselves within their homes. And then there were other individuals who would go to the public bath, and Imam al-Rida, even at that time, he would go to the public bath. When he goes to the public area, a man, he comes up, and he says that, wash my back. Imam al-Rida begins to wash the back of that individual. At that moment, people are shocked. They said, do you not know what you just did? This is the grandson of Rasulullah, the heir apparent of Ma'mun. The moment that man says that, Imam al-Rida, he says that it is an act of worship to serve the creation of Allah. You find this is Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. You know, if Islam spread in time periods like that, Islam spread because of the akhlaq of Ahl-e-Bait. And it spread because of the ilm of Ahl-e-Bait. You know, in another occasion, there was an individual from Khurasan. He comes to the Imam. And when he comes to the Imam, he says that, Yabna Rasulullah, I am not a poor individual, but I'm on a journey and I don't have any money. I need money enough so I can go back. You know, because I'm well off, I can't take sadaqah. But at the same time, my money isn't with me, so I need to go. What Imam al-Rida does is that he says, oh man, stay here. I will go inside my house. The Imam goes in his house. He comes out. And without opening the door, he sticks his hand out over the door and he gives that man an amount of money. You know, other individuals that are watching, they say that, oh, Yabna Rasulullah, why did you not open the door? You know, he says at that moment, this man, he comes from a good family. He comes from a wealthy background. I didn't want to embarrass him by him looking at my face as I gave towards him. You know, you and I, when we give someone sadaqah, oftentimes it's as if we're giving the greatest favor in the world to that individual. And we hold it over their head. But you know, there is an ayat of the Quran which describes how powerful giving charity is. You know, that verse of the Quran, it says, وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ, that give from that which we have provided you, مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَ أَحَدُكُمُ الْمَوْتِ, before death comes, give from what we have provided you. And if you don't do that, the Quran shows the consequence. It says on the day of judgment, if you don't do this, فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي, that you'll say that on the day of judgment, لَوْلَا أَخَّرْتَنِي إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ قَرِيبٍ, that, oh Allah, why don't you send me back to the world for a small amount of time? And you know why they'll want to go back to the world? It says, فَأَصَدَّقْ وَأَكُنْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, so that we can give sadaqah and we can be amongst those who are salih and who are righteous. So you find this type of regret, the Quran doesn't mention it for salat, but it mentions it for sadaqah within this ayah. So you find in this regard, Imam al-Rida, he demonstrates this in his seerah, and he demonstrates this in his character as Imam al-Ra'uf. The final of the titles that I'll examine before coming to the title, which is the subject of tonight's analysis, is that he was called al-Rida. You know, the question is that where did this title of al-Rida, the one who is pleased, the one who is a source of pleasure, come from? You know, there is a very famous narrator from the Imams by the name of Abu Nasr al-Bazanti. And it stated Abu Nasr al-Bazanti, he goes to the Imam, and he says that the people, they say that this title was given to Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. He goes to Imam al-Jawad, and he says this title was given to your father by Ma'mun. That Ma'mun called him al-Rida when he made him the heir apparent. At that point, the Imam, he replied by saying, Kadabu wallah, that by Allah, these individuals are lying. Wafajaru, and they are transgressing. The reason he is called Ar-Rida is because Allah is pleased with them in the heavens. And upon this earth, Rasulullah and the other Imams are pleased with them. At that point, Abu Nasr al-Bazanti, he says, isn't it the case that Allah is pleased with all of the A'immah? Then why is this title being given specifically for Ali ibn Musa al-Rida? The Imam replies by saying, this is the one whom even his enemies were pleased with. You know, others, they had enemies who tried to do everything to stop them. But the Jalal of Ali ibn Musa al-Rida was something which was unique. And amongst the reasons for that uniqueness was the knowledge of the Imam. You know, this narration which I quoted at the beginning of the lecture, that Imam al-Qadim, he says to his children, that this is your brother Ali ibn Musa. Preserve what he says to you and ask him about your religion. For I heard my father Ja'far al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Listen to this next line. He says, I heard my father Ja'far al-Sadiq on multiple occasions, غَيْرَ مَرَّةٍ, more than one time say that the alim of Ali Muhammad is within your lineage. And how I wish that I will see him. You see, this line is being given by Ja'far al-Sadiq. When we think of ilm and knowledge within our madhab as a school of thought, the name which comes to our mind is the name of Imam al-Sadiq. But over here, Imam al-Sadiq is saying, I wish that I was alive to see the alim of Ali Muhammad. So the question is, why this title to Imam al-Rida? Why not to Amir al-Mu'mineen? Why not to Imam al-Baqir? Why not to Imam al-Sadiq? You know, one level of this, without a doubt, is that in terms of qualities, Ahl-e-Bait, they had qualities that mirrored one another. That all of them were patient, all of them were knowledgeable, all of them were forbearant, but the circumstances brought out certain qualities. You know, in the same regard, when you look at the Anbiya, you find the Anbiya, their miracles were according to that time period. That in the time of Musa, magic reigned supreme. Musa, he goes, his staff turns into a snake, and the first to acknowledge were the magicians. Because the magicians, they know what this man is doing is different from what we're doing. We're doing deception, but what he has is an actual miracle. And at that point they say, Amanna bi Rabbi Haruna wa Musa. That we believe in the Lord of Musa and the Lord of Harun. You know, they could have just said, we believe in the Lord of Musa. But you find even the Quran shows that the wasi of the Prophet needs to be acknowledged when you're testifying to faith. So you find that in that manner, that miracle was according to the time period. When we look at Imam al